Hi, everyone. Thank y'all for joining us for our Beef Brunch News Update for Tuesday, April 16th. As y'all know, we record these on Monday afternoons, and I can say that at least today, now the sun is shining and it's pretty and it's about 80 degrees outside. I'm sure Brittany and Lee will touch a little bit on the storms that blew through last week. Got pretty rough. I know there was a few tornadoes and some rain throughout. So our thoughts and prayers with everybody that were affected by the tornadoes and the extreme parts of the storm. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to Brittany for our Central Region update.
Okay. Thanks, Ashley. So yes, I'm located in St. Landry Parish, and we were hit pretty hard by those storms last week. Thousands of customers out of electricity, myself included. We also had in St. Landry Parish alone, there were 2 confirmed tornadoes, I believe, and there were 2 other confirmed tornadoes in Acadiana as well. I remember also hearing about one like in the Slidell area. So lots of very strong winds and rain came through. I know at my house, we got about 6 inches of rain. Luckily I had bought a rain gauge not too long ago, so I was able to measure that. And then I know when I talked to Vince last week, I believe he's a little bit further west than me in Evangeline Parish, and he said that they got about 5 inches. So, some areas just got it worse than others, but yeah, that ground got really, really saturated, and we saw a lot of weather. There are also a lot of trees that came down as well. So we did see, notice some damage to some fences. So if y'all were in those hard hit areas and you haven't gone yet to go check on your pastures and your fences and make sure everything's still standing, make sure you get that done as soon as possible. We also last week started the Master Cattleman class that I'm hosting here in the Central Region. We're going to have 22 participants in that class. So we'll continue that next week, and those classes here will go through June 13th. And I know Lee is also doing one now as well up in the northwest part of the state. We have been getting several calls lately related to soil samples. The last time I talked to the soil lab, I know that they are, very busy with lots of soil samples right now, which is just kind of causing, there to be a little bit of a backup there in the lab. So sometimes it's taking, a couple weeks, maybe up to 3 weeks or so for people to actually get their results. So just be patient, as y'all wait for those, and give a call to your have a lot of people also as well that were trying to get some fertilizer out last week, just ahead of the rain that we had coming. I did hear from just 1 or 2 people, the price of fertilizer did go up a little bit, I believe before last week. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And just make sure, as y'all are getting your soil results, make sure you're talking with your extension agent about it, and following those recommendations for your fertilizer and whatnot. I have been seeing several as well that are coming back with lime recommendations. So in our part of the state, we typically have, just Bahia grass. I would say probably mostly on the Bermuda side, a lot of hybrid Bermuda, and then we also have several people with Bahia grass as well. So with those 2 grasses, they're tolerant to acidic soils. So you really don't need to add lime to that soil until the pH gets below 5%. Now, if you are overseeding with clovers or ryegrass during, the cooler, you're going to need to get that soil pH to at least about 5.5. Again, so like I said, soil testing is so important. And then as we get into hay season coming up here soon, we do have, do forage testing as well. That was something when I started here last year that I learned how to do a soil sample with the core sampler a hay sample with the core sampler that we have. And that was something that I very much encouraged people to do. And then one of the producers that I worked with, we actually tested, did a little just comparison between each of the cuts he did from the same field, and just determined that he was able to get some fertilizer out before his second cutting, and happened to catch a little bit of rain early on, and that made a big difference in the quality of his hay. So if you're wondering if that fertilizer makes a difference in your quality and your yield, it definitely does make a difference. I believe that is all I have for now, and I guess I will turn it over to Lee.
Hey, thanks, Brittany. Glad to be with you all here today. It's a really beautiful day, as Ashley stated. After certainly a wild weather week last week, we experienced quite the rainfall. We missed out on most of the storms the farther north you got, with the exception in some pockets. I visited with a cattle producer in Bienville Parish that experienced quite a bit of wind, a lot of down trees on fences and stuff like that. And we live in Louisiana, and that's we unfortunately it just comes with the territory. It seems between hurricanes and severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, and stuff. You get an appreciation for your ability to fix fence very quickly and everything. The main effect of the storms for us in Northwest Louisiana, and I dare say I'm going to extrapolate just a little bit towards Tripp's area, Northeast Louisiana too, is the heavy rainfall. We had parts of the region that received anywhere from 5-6 inches all the way up to the highest I've heard is 11-12 inches of rain. And so we saw some localized flooding. It was nothing like what we have seen in years past. I talked to a couple of producers that were talking about drawing comparisons between this and 2016. 2016 was whenever the Red River got out of bounds so bad and caused so much devastation up in our area of the state, is all the way down to Vince's part of the state as well. But it really wasn't the same. All that rainfall came at one time, and this was scattered out over a couple of days. But the result was the same. This soil is absolutely saturated, and it's kind of ground a lot of things to a halt. Ground a lot of cattle workings to a halt, and for sure brought a halt to the hay production. The last time we visited on this news update, we alluded to the fact that just a few people were getting out and putting up some baleage, and that still rings true. I have yet to run across anybody that has been able to dry bale any hay. I'm sure somebody out there has, and maybe even somebody listening to us on this update. But I do know several folks that have been able to put up some high moisture hay in the last couple of weeks and such. But all that has stopped until we can get some of this moisture off these fields and be able to get back in. We got some more rain coming up this upcoming weekend and everything. So the pattern's not going to break. What we worry about up here is in Northwest Louisiana, and I know in other corners of the state, we rely a lot on volunteer ryegrass. That's Italian ryegrass in our hay fields and also in our pastures. And if we try to make a crop of hay of that out of that volunteer ryegrass, it's so early maturing compared to planted ryegrass that most of it is going to seed right now, and that we're really losing quite a bit of quality whenever we cross that 80-degree threshold, which we have multiple times already this spring. And so that volunteer ryegrass we have in our hay fields, we know the quality is diminishing rapidly. And boy, it just turns into straw if we can't get in and get it. But that doesn't change the equation that is we can't get in the fields right now. And so we'll be looking for a good span of at least 4 or 5 days where we can get some drying weather and get in there and have a chance to cure some hay. And I think it's right upon us. I think we maybe can get past this next rain event. We might have a clear shot at getting some hay made. As we're talking about hay, just a reminder, our Louisiana Forage and Grassland Council State Fair of Louisiana Hay Contest will be held this fall. We hadn't released the rule book or anything on that, but just a reminder that as you're going through this production season and putting up some of that hay, just keep in mind, get with one of us, get with your local A&R agent, extension agent, and we'll get the hay sample pulled, and we can get you entered into that contest. Free to enter, folks. All it takes is the cost of getting your hay sample analyzed, something that we all really need to be doing anyway. But a chance to win some pretty cool prizes and money and plaques, and we even give a grand champion belt buckle to the highest scoring forage in that competition. Had a really interesting and good AI class this last week. Ashley Smiling, we had a weather delayed AI class last week at the Hill Farm Research Station in Homer. But we had a great group of producers that came in despite the weather. We had to put it off a day, and it created some unique circumstances. But we were able to get them in and talk to them for a couple of days about AI and get them all through the process, and trying to get them the information they need and the confidence needed to breed cows via AI. This was our 10th class, folks. We've had several folks come through this last 10 years we've been doing these class, and I told the group last week, and I'll repeat it, is one of the most rewarding things about my job as far as that goes is getting a text message picture of the first calf born via AI, somebody that's come through our class. And so that's really a special thing. But I enjoy those classes. I enjoy getting to meet everybody. The people are what makes this industry and what makes ag in general. And so I really enjoy meeting and visiting and hearing about you all and your life stories. I say this periodically, but drop us a line sometimes. If you listen to this report, positive, negative, or just say, I'm listening, a lot of times we'll put out these reports and we get a comment here and there. But just let us know what you think and everything. I apparently said something very funny because both of them are laughing. So that's nothing new for me. I make asinine comments on the regular. So anyway, we'll roll into the next bit of news as far as market news and such. I wish that it was a laughing matter what's going on in the cattle markets, folks. It's not. I hate to call it a rout because I don't think a rout adequately describes what's going on. I don't think it qualifies for a rout just yet. Give it another couple of weeks and we may be in rout territory. But the cattle market, both live cash prices and futures markets, has experienced quite the downturn in the last couple of weeks. I forewarned what would happen, and it's kind of rang true. The last time we had one of these news updates, I talked about the effects of some sensationalism in the news that's bleeding over to the markets and whatnot. I've been on the phone quite a bit with some producers who are really, really nervous, and it's mainly the folks that's got fall born calves. Those calves that are going to be coming off the cows. Well, starting right now, all the way into June or so, those people are really getting nervous. They've held on to these calves, just anticipating this big payday on these high calf prices, and just to see it kind of starting to turn downward at this time. I did share a graphic with the producer I happened to be talking to this morning who was really worried about it. And it's a 10-year average of 550-pound steer prices. And if it charts those prices over the last 10 years. Really and truly, folks, we do experience historically speaking, we do experience slight downturns this time of the year. Before leveling out going into the summer and ultimately falling into the fall. So don't just sell the farm just yet. Don't panic sell these calves. Hold on to them if you need to hold on to them. The market's still great, folks. If you compare it to what these calves were bringing, what these cattle were bringing, even 12 months or 16 months, 18 months ago, we're really seeing some pretty decent prices right now still. I hope that some of this fear that's infected markets. I'm not even going to talk about it. If you want to listen to some of that stuff, you can sure listen to plenty of market pundits that'll tell you exactly what's causing market to turn down. But I'm not going to discuss that here. If you want to, give me a call and we'll sure talk about what's going on with it. But I think that things will level out and people will come back to their senses and will levelize things on the markets, because the plain and simple fact of it, folks, is the market fundamentals have not changed. We haven't mysteriously come up with an extra million or two head of cattle to put off these shortfalls that we're anticipating. Yeah, we're importing beef, mostly lower end cuts and stuff. Yeah, imports are up, but it's just not quite enough to bridge the gaps. We got several hurdles to cross over. And if we can get across those, we should continue to see a pretty robust market for a little while longer yet. With that rambling and everything, I'll get directly into our market report. And I guess I should forewarn you all, the data on this market report, my confidence is fairly low in it. And I think people's response to this downturn in this market has been just to pull sales completely. So we've seen several census numbers from local sale barns that have fallen. Just not a lot of folks selling cattle right now between weather and also this kind of slump in market price and condition. I think it's kind of slowed down marketing cattle. A lot of people are probably holding on to some cattle to kind of see what happens in the market. So when you don't have huge offerings, you don't have a lot of data on that. So I'm going to give you what I got, and you can take it for what it's worth. On 500 to 600 pound steers, the average of the range was $2.02 per pound to $2.98 per pound. 5 to 6 weight heifers, $1.82 to $2.59. Cull cows, 94 cents to $1.43. Cull, $1.57. Bred cows, $2,100 is the average high on those bred cows, folks. And pair cattle, $2,618.75. I don't have percent changes this week, and I got to that point in creating that report, and I just stopped on it because the data wasn't in my opinion valid enough to be able to reflect the accurate changes in the market. But I can tell you the market's lower. You don't have to have me to tell you that. You can go down the sale barn and talk to anybody, and they'll tell you that we have experienced a little downturn on this market. Don't panic, folks. Don't panic. I had two folks that cornered me up in a feed store, asked me if this was 2014, 2015 all over again. And I don't think we're there, but we'll be there eventually. So with that being said, final thing I'll mention, and I know Ashley probably has it in her list of upcoming events. We got our beef and Northwest Region Beef and Forage Field Day coming up next Thursday. That's April the 25th. That's going to be at the Red River Station there in Bossier City. We look forward to seeing you all. Been on the phone with several people. We got a fairly large trade show coming in on that deal. We got a good bevy of speakers, and so we visit with everybody, and fingers crossed weather holds out good for us. With that being said, I'll turn it over to you, Ashley.
Thank you. I feel like we got caught passing notes in class because Brittany sent me a text message when you were talking and said I looked angry, so that's why we were laughing. Sorry. So Tripp could not join us today. He had another meeting, and I didn't tell Lee ahead of time, but Tripp said that he was pretty sure whatever Lee was going to say would hold true for Northeast Louisiana. I think it did. I live, I guess, technically in our Northeast region in Union Parish, and I think for the most part in that area, got 5 to 6 inches of rain. Probably some more in other areas. So yeah, pretty much just a repeat there. He said there was a little bit of hay that was hitting the ground. I'm sitting at our Dean Lee Research Station in Alexandria today as we record, and I know we had a small area that we were able to go ahead and start cutting, try to get some dry hay up. And I guess tying that into also what Lee was saying with the markets, we have some steers that have been on ryegrass as part of a study, and we typically feed them out on ryegrass and have been waiting to sell those. until last minute, and we've had plenty of grass. We've been holding off, and they have to go this week. And so probably should have sent them a couple of weeks ago, but it is what it is. I think a lot of people put this little bit in, but a lot of people don't realize that our stations, we have to be self-sustaining with our cattle. So we run essentially as y'all do, as our own operations, and so some years get a little tight even for us on the stations. In terms of programs, I want to, I guess, duplicate what Lee said again with our AI class. It was a lot of fun to teach. It was a great group of people. A little stressful on Wednesday trying to figure out what to do when we had the weather closures, but I want to give a shout out to all the participants that were in that, because it's always one of my favorite things to teach, and really enjoyed it and had a great group that were able to join us there. In terms of events, let me get back to my list. Lee did mention the Northwest Beef and Forage Field Day on April 25th. Josh Salley has the DeSoto Parish Beef and Forage Field Day on May 10th. I've got both of those in the video and podcast descriptions. Master Cattleman, Dr. Donna Gentry has hers coming up in August, and I do have that linked as well, so you can go ahead and look at that form and get with her. I think her meeting room is limited in space, so go ahead and start looking at that and visit with her to see, make sure that I'm correct in saying that. But we are also doing our registration for our Advanced Master Cattleman. And so if you have graduated from Master Cattleman, you can take our Advanced Master Cattleman. I can't remember if I talked about that on the last news update or not, so I apologize if I'm repeating a lot of this. But it's 4 workshops that make up the whole program. And so you do need to come to all 4 workshops. The first 2 are at the Southeast Research Station in Franklinton. The third is at the West Baton Rouge Parish office in Port Allen. And the 4th is going to be at the Doyle Chambers Central Research Station there in Baton Rouge, right off of campus. Cost to register is $200. I made a typo on the first registration form that went out, and it said $250, but it is $200 for that. So if you want a copy of the registration form, I've got it linked in the video and podcast description, but you can also just send me an email, and I'll make sure you get the updated version of that. All of the dates, all the locations, everything is online. I'm trying to get all the registrations in by May 3rd. So if you're interested in that, please go ahead, reach out to me if you have any questions, but go ahead and get your registrations in for that as well. Lee, do you remember if Josh needed an RSVP for his field day? I don't have that in my notes.
Yes, I believe he does.
Okay. So get with Josh Salley. Again, his contact information is listed if you plan on going to his field day, so that he can make sure he has enough meals for everybody.
May 3rd. It says
May 3rd for his
pre-registration required by May 3rd. So that's his deadline.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. I think that's all we have for y'all today. I'm looking at my list. Oh no, Trip is not on here, so I get to make fun of Trip for half a second. Y'all, he was last week. I was coming from the Hill Farm into the Union Parish office, and I get a text from Trip that said that he had been preparing for the news update for like 30 minutes. He was so excited. He had a demonstration with a soil probe and everything, a whole talk prepared about soil compaction. And I walk into the office, and there's Trip holding the soil probe, so upset that he did not realize that we did not have a news update last week. So I'm going to forewarn you and prepare you. Everybody give Trip a big round of applause, because I'm assuming he's probably going to prepare that for our next news update and talk about soil compaction a little bit. So get to pick on him since he's not here to defend himself. And now, after I've done that, I think that's all we have for y'all this week. We'll see y'all again in a couple weeks.